Hello and welcome to The Good, The Bad and The Worst, a podcast where we review movie trilogies and decide which film didn't manage to capture the Oprah shot. I'm your host Griner, and joining me today...
I'm Luke, and I would have voted for Obama a third time if I could have.
Speaking of that Oprah shot, you don't deserve the impossible shot.
Boys, talking about, well, the Peele Trilogy, Jordan Peele's 3 films. We've done some non-traditional trilogies before. Blood and Ice Cream Trilogy was the first one. We considered a trilogy because, it's the same creative team, same actors, similar themes across 3 movies. We did the Frontier Trilogy, not a traditional trilogy, but, same writer and the same, setting, the American frontier from different perspectives. How do we justify the Peele Trilogy?
These films are dope. These films, they rhyme with no. I thought about this question a lot. I think that in the same vein, all those other films, like I say, they have thematic similarities. They have very similar visions and tones, and you can tell they're kind of made with an awareness of what's going to come after it almost, or what's come before it. And a lot of ways they're either a response to it or they're a carrying on of that tradition. This is a similar thing. These films are all like Jordan Peele. Holy crap, does he have a voice? It's crazy how singular his vision is in all of his stuff and how much he has to say. And I just think they're social. I think the biggest thing, they're social thrillers. They're all very similar in terms of they've got a clear social critique. They're not just genre pieces for the sake of it. He's making these movies for a reason. They're all saying something, and they've all kind of got that brand of dread, comedy, and absurdity.
Yep.
So I think it's really like, you would watch these films and you'd be like, that's a Jordan Peele film, even if you'd never. I mean, obviously, you say this is, if you saw these and didn't know who he was and had no idea who created them, I think you would be pretty easy to say these are similar, or there's something there between them.
These were, the same vision or the same creative team or something like that. Luke, do you have anything?
They're tethered, if you will.
Tethered. Yeah. Good use.
Yes. It's just a shame that Daniel Kaluuya wasn't in Us, because otherwise we could say it's this weird universe with him. And he said that it's like, what did he compare it to? He said it's like it's his De Niro, like his Scorsese's De Niro, that he wants him to be in his films moving forward.
His muse.
But like that's the thing. I think thematically and like the messages that they all 3 of them share, they're very very similar. I feel like, same as the Taylor Sheridan trilogy, you watch them, I feel like even stronger than that one. You know that these films are sort of tied. I feel like if you didn't know who the director was or anything like that, there's similarities, and yeah, they all share a similar thing. So
yeah, they like you say, Conan, they have a strong voice, a real social commentary they want to impress on us. I enjoy that they're all horror movies, but they all, they follow different genres in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I, coming into it before watching Nope and thinking about these movies before I'd watch them again, I'm like, they all deal with race. But I don't actually think that they do. Get Out particularly does. But, that could have been Jordan Peele's thing. He could have made 3 movies about race, and I probably would have been there for it for sure. But he doesn't, to his credit. Like, he tackles other themes, other issues, and he does them so well.
I think that's what's endearing about him, and why it's sort of like 3 for 3. Is that, he's not just hitting that same gong. He's not just reminding us that racism's a problem and handling it well. He's doing more than that. Because I remember there was a bit of, not blowback, but there was a little bit of confusion, I guess, with Us, where people were like, how is this about race? Why is this or is he exploring race? And some people were upset about that. And they're like, what exactly is the takeaway if it's not race? And I thought it was really good. It's like, that's good. He's not just saying that's the only concern in society. He's addressing other stuff, which is great.
It's a lot of social commentary, but yeah.
Yeah, and I still feel like there's a celebration of black culture in all of these films, which I really enjoyed as an outsider, getting a perspective on. Like, they're all, I don't want to say they're all black films, but, there's a sense of blackness to all these films. I don't know if I can say that, but...
No, there is, and I think he said that, right? Like, said, he called Get Out because he's like, this is what black people say in horror films. They say get out. Like, he knows that. He's riffing on that stuff.
Yeah.
They really do revel in, like, it happens in all of them. In Get Out, sort of Rod as his comedic offsider, who is like a stereotype essentially.
Yeah.
But played for laughs in a really good way, is like, this is the friend that everybody wants to have. As like that's
Especially in a horror movie. Like, this is
yeah,
what
exactly.
you yell at the screen. Yeah.
He's the surrogate, right? Like if you had that as a white guy, it would feel really strange.
Mm.
But he's like, no, he's like, yeah, Jordan Peele, I can only assume knows people like this, has been in the community and has seen this happen. He's like, yeah, this is like you're right, it's a celebration. He's like, this is our life put on screen.
Mm.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any connection to Jordan Peele before this trilogy? Like my wife and I were big fans of Key and Peele, his sketch show. I mean, all sketch shows are hit and miss, but I feel like when that show hits, there's some real classics. They still get shared around Reddit. You know, I don't know, it must be nearly 10 years later. You know, the collegiate football names, the AA run. I said, bitch. Such a good sketch. Did you guys have any connection to that? Were you big fans of Keanu before coming into this trilogy?
So I'd never watched any of Key and Peele, but like I used to see commercials for it all the time on Foxtel here in Australia, and like whatever I did see, I thought was funny, and I always had this like desire to watch them films. And obviously, I've seen skits and stuff that have gone viral and stuff like that, and been on YouTube or stuff that have been turned into memes. You know, there's the one of him going through and like this handshakes with the black people, and then the white, like, you know, it's people put the different names for things, like
Yep.
especially gaming memes and stuff like that. I've seen them.
There's him sweating when his wife's grilling him
Yeah,
about his
that's
internet history.
That's the meme that
there's so many great memes and everything like that that I've found funny. And I remember when it first came out that he was doing, like, you know, directing and was going to direct this horror um, movie. I'd heard a lot of buzz around it and was pretty excited to see it. And then when I watched Get Out, straight away I was just like, oh, I can feel the comedy in this, and I enjoy the comedy in his films. So yeah.
Yeah. I knew them by name only before Keanu. Like I had seen that there was a show called the Key and Peele Show, you know, in the same way that I know there was a Dick Van Dyke Show. Don't know what it's about, don't know what happens in it, but Keanu came out and it was that I was working at the video store at the time, and so I had the trailer playing all the time, and it seemed pretty funny. I was like, oh yeah, so these guys they're making a name for themselves a bit more. They're branching out of comedy into this. So I read a bit about them and yeah, learned sort of what their deal was. Um, but then Get Out, the beauty of it was that it was kind of like going in blind for me. I knew a little bit about the whole. This was a stand up comedian, or not a stand up comedian. This is a comedian's work, and it was a horror film, and so some of the buzz was like, this is really weird. Like this could pay off great, or it could be a total train wreck. And sort of sharing in that cultural moment as it took off. And I remember seeing it with a sort of an associate at the time, and I think we both came out like that was really good, and just watching it sort of take over the world in a way, and being like, is this the best horror film of the year? Is this best horror film of the decade? You know, the that term, what is it, elevated horror, which is so obnoxious, but it was already around, but it was really like slathered on this movie, and everyone's like, this is elevated horror. And it was just fascinating to see this dude who everyone knew was a funny guy, but to see that he knew so much was crazy.
Yep.
I don't know how I've gone this long without hearing of Keanu, but I've just Googled it and I'm like, I feel like I need to watch this film.
The thing is, it was a bit of a flop. Like, I don't really know anyone who saw it. I didn't see it, and I was a fan of these guys. Like, I just heard it was not great. So for him to come out of that and create Get Out, and it had so much buzz around it, I saw it in the cinema, even though, you know, I didn't make any effort to see Keanu.
Yeah, Keanu. Because I don't know anything about. Griner, if you follow their career, do you know anything about why they're not still making the comedy show, are they?
No, they're not. I mean, I don't think they definitely appear together in things occasionally. Like, they do two voices in Toy Story 4.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think, but I don't. They mostly work on separate projects now, as far as I know.
Yeah, because Michael Key, he's just done a bunch of other stuff, and I see him popping up heaps.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely taken the comedy actor route, whereas Peele has definitely moved behind the scenes a lot more. We don't see him acting a whole lot these days.
No.
Yeah, because Key found success like going into the Predator series sort of thing. I think that just blew off from there. So
he's been in a heap of stuff and hasn't. I don't think he's ever been like the leading man or anything. But I mean, he's probably making pay. Good on him.
Yeah.
All right, shall we jump into it with some stats?
Yes.
All right, so Get Out made $255 million worldwide on a $4.5 million budget.
Ooh, what a budget!
Outstanding return.
Damn, that's good.
Us made $255 million on a $20 million budget. Still a good return.
That's great return as well.
It's hilarious to me that those two movies made almost the exact same figure. There's something very poetic about that. And then Nope, so far 103 million, only just recently come out internationally. So hopefully that number will be up a bit on a $68 million budget. Quite a big leap in budget.
I was going to say this would have to be a bigger budget. Nope's budget blows me away. That's impressive, that film, for that.
You think it should be more or less?
I would have just figured more. Like, I don't know, but obviously it's not. There's not Thor swinging around in there or anything like that. But I don't know. It's got a good cast. I feel like
the mother. I can't think of the actress's name, but she's in heaps. Like she's a fairly big name actress these days. Like she plays a mother and everything, admittedly, but
they did well with that budget though.
All right, critically, Get Out 85 on Metacritic, Us 81, and Nope 77. We'll get into that as we review them, I think. Let's kick it off with Get Out. A young African-American visits his white girlfriend's parents for the weekend, where his simmering uneasiness about their reception of him eventually reaches a boiling point.
Boy, does it ever.
That little synopsis tells you absolutely nothing about the movie.
That spoiler alert, that boiler point is murder. Holy crap.
His body snatching.
This movie it's crazy what this movie has done and how sort of important it is. Like it's both in terms of representation. I think this is kind of like it's a tentpole that people look back at and go, that changed the way that I think Hollywood especially started to see, oh wait, quote unquote black stories have real value, because it just made a lot of money, and it's very, very scathing of the problems in society. Like it's playing it up it's a really insightful, despite being kind of like not an exploitative horror film, but it's a horror film, so it accentuates stuff, it exaggerates.
Yeah.
But it really taps into a lot of like the horror of the black experience. And it's fascinating that it made so much money, and everybody in the world was just like, yeah, this is great, we want this. Like it's kind of has not given a new chance to, but I think it showed that there was a real, like, these stories want to be heard by people. Which is really good, like really, really good.
And I mean, that comes from a podcast of three white guys. I've listened to other podcasts of white people just praising this movie because, I love it. Like, it's Peele just does such a good job at making like these really insightful social commentary movies, but they're also funny. They're just so entertaining, and the horror elements are really, really well done too. Like, and this movie, probably out of all of them, does it the best, I think. But
it's the one that's the most like horror of the three, I think.
I mean they're all different horrors. This is probably the one that I think builds the tension the best for the longest, and like you just have that uneasy feeling for so long because you're put in his shoes, and it's great that you can reflect that back on the black experience, amongst white people. Like it's just so well done and insightful in that way.
Yep.
I like we've talked about it before. I knew nothing about this film. And I'll get into it later as well with Note, but I knew nothing about this film going into it. I was in another town and we were looking for time to kill, and it was on basically. And I'd heard good things. I knew there was, Jordan Peele's horror film. Didn't know anything else about it though. Went and watched it, and just like it was this weird thing because it's so funny. I feel like especially Get Out. There's a lot of comedy in it, and I was enjoying the movie. And there's definitely the unease, but it's one of my favorite horror films because I don't feel like it's that much, horror. Like it's not like stuff that a few days later I'm thinking about, like scared in my house or something like that. Like
no, I see white people now, and boy.
Oh, I mean, yeah, white people are crazy. They scare me all the time, but it's just I really enjoyed this experience of watching this film. Like I felt like I didn't know what was coming. I had no idea that it would the twist, like with what's actually going on, did not see it coming. And
No.
I was like, what the hell is this? Like, what the hell is going on? But yeah, I just remember walking out and being like, that film was awesome. Like that was great to watch. I don't watch horror films that often, and to find one that I was easily able to watch, and I feel like it's very rewatchable. Especially,
Yes.
I feel like all of these films, when you watch them back, you get more from it. Obviously,
Yep.
knowing what's going on at the end makes stuff happen, but still, man, that the groundskeeper running in the dark towards the camera, that's the only thing that maybe still gives me nightmares. It's for some reason that just running just
Yeah.
scares me.
Straightforward with his like Terminator
Yes.
arms.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, scary.
I I think that's kind of what made this film sort of such a lasting hit and resonant in people's mind is that it's got such a rewatchability. Like the podcast, The Rewatchables, they did it
Mm,
like 2 years after it was released, which was unheard of at the time. But just even like I've seen it a few times, watching it again this week, the amount of foreshadowing and
Yes.
clever symbolism and
Yes.
like just the dialogue, the script in that film, every line is like
yep.
a double entendre or like loaded,
Yep.
and there's so much subtext to every sentence. It's insane watching it. Like I get as a writer, I'm just in awe. I'm like, how on earth can you do this? I
Yeah.
I, I can't figure it out. It's so clever.
It's so skilled because, like, we've seen other movies with a twist, right? So the one that always comes up is The Sixth Sense, right? Like that's a movie that lives and dies on its twist. You can watch it a second time and see the moments that sort of give it away, but it's not like this film. Like I feel like I could watch this film again and again and again and just continue to be blown away by that subtext and that foreshadowing. Like I love he gets into the house and they're like, oh, we had black mold in the basement, and you get in the kitchen and it's all black and white tiles, and he's telling this story about Jesse Owens, and it's just like, oh, it's dripping in it, and it's so good. Like I just want to marinate in it. I love it.
I love him
deer.
saying.
Oh,
I was
you
just
go.
gonna say, I love him saying like, yeah, he almost got over it. Like he's great that he's like almost got over it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it
This
stuck with him.
the one that I laughed at this time was like the deer. He's like, I don't want to go to my high horse. They're a pest. They're taking over. One down. The more the better. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so good. It's
Yeah.
so good. And just that Obama delivery at the end of that long sort
Yes.
of tour. I'd vote for him a second. I was like, holy crap, that's you can just tell like he's
We,
met white people who do this, and I know white people who
we
do that.
know
Like,
people. I
yeah,
feel like that's a very
Yeah.
even in Australia, we know people like
for
that.
sure. It's like, yeah, I can't be racist. I have a black friend, and
Yep.
that's such a fraught statement.
Yeah, that's the genius of this movie. Is it's not taking down racists. It's taking down like people who don't think they're racist, but don't live out those ideals they kind of say they do. Like it takes out, it's taking on the woke people who I would have voted for Obama again, and I love black people, but in their day-to-day lives aren't living that out, aren't doing anything to help the black population. And it's genius. Chef's kiss. I love it.
Yeah, one of the like it always gets me when he meets the photographer, and like he's captured in there, and he's talking to him, trying to explain what's going on, and he's like, don't. It's not about race. I couldn't give a shit what you look like. He's like, it's your eyes. I want your eyes, man. And it's
Yeah.
this fascinating thing because it's like I was just reading like a big in-depth thing on it, and they're like, that's one of the most insidious forms of it, right? Where it's people who are like, oh, I don't care about your skin color. It's the economic stuff. It's I don't care about your skin color. It's just what happens in those neighborhoods. Oh, I don't care what they are. But in these areas, that's the area where the crime happens. So what's
Yeah.
the problem? And like they're kind of going around this roundabout way to try to say, oh, no, I don't have a problem with race, but everything that about this race that's not their race is a problem. So I'm not a
Yeah.
racist. I'm pointing out facts. And it's that really insidious way of thinking that people believe, and like everyone's prone to do it and just go, oh no, I honestly, you think about it. It's like, I don't care about that. I just want your eyes, man. But he's like, no, he wants the appeal of this certain guy though, the way he sees the black world and like how he's still obsessed with it. It's really fascinating,
Yeah.
really insightful.
I love like all of his films. I love like getting on social media and looking at what people are saying, because people come up with these things I didn't notice, or things that I noticed I can share. Like everybody comes away with a different view. Like I guess he does a really good job at making you come to those conclusions, like feel like you came to them on your own, rather than him sort of hitting you over the head with it or anything like that. Like it's so subtle, but yeah, it promotes discussion, which is so good. Like it's so smart, and it's what makes these movies last and be rewatchable.
For sure. There's something about I don't know, it's about all of his films. I don't know if I want to say it here necessarily, but something like just watching them all, like he really has this great tendency to let things breathe. And so I found like
Yep.
you see it in a lot of films, a lot of horror films, all of them. Like they'll show something and it's like a jump scare. It happens and it's immediately that you get frightened, but then it's gone, right? You're like, oh, okay, I'm not dead by this thing that attacked, so I'm okay. But there's so many shots in all of them, and like this, especially like with the deer, with the old the groundskeeper running at him, just
Yeah.
with Georgina, where the camera just lingers and it lets you really sort of soak in the uncomfortableness and the
Yeah.
fear. Because it could have just done a jump cut and shown the groundskeeper right there running, and just, oh crap, there's a dude. But it shows him a distance, like, what is that? And you're
Yep.
watching, it's like, oh, he's running. Oh, he's running at Chris. Oh, and it just kind of gets more and more frightening the more it sits there, which is, it seems so antithetical. That should disarm the tension, but it doesn't. It just makes it more frightening. And like how long the bingo scene takes, where it's just
Yeah.
this slow pull
Oh,
out.
that scene with the bidding, I feel like
Yeah.
is really haunting. Just the
Oh,
music, the silence, or
mm,
you're not hearing anyone talk. It's no,
Yeah.
chilling.
it's amazing. What do you guys think about the Japanese guy who's at the auction?
Don't have a strong opinion because I'm trying to think about what he did or said.
So he has one line of dialogue, right? His line is,
How do you
think that,
find it? Like,
yeah,
how's life? Yeah.
yeah, basically, yeah, he's like,
That's
do you
right.
think do you
Yeah.
think the black experience is advantageous or disadvantageous in like today? But it's just funny. It's definitely a movie about white guys, but there's one Japanese guy there, and
Mm.
like that's clearly intentional. There's something to that, and I didn't really look into it. I should have, but do you guys have any thoughts about it or see anything?
No, I don't know.
It's fascinating. Like he fills these movies with so much symbolism that people will look into everything. So he did some interviews with, I think it was Empire or something, and someone had asked him the question. Towards the end of the movie, she's drinking white milk and eating Fruit
man.
Loops. And someone was like, he's keeping the colours and the whites separated. He's like, no, I didn't mean for that. It just makes her seem like a creep. And I'm like, that's fascinating, because he's like, that's not actually the point of the film. They're trying to mix the races. Like, they're trying to become the black people. And he's like, but it's interesting how, because he drenches these films in so much symbolism and foreshadowing, you look at everything, it's like, what is this trying to tell me? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's what makes these movies so endearing and so rewatchable, I think. And so maybe the Asian man has a big point that we haven't got. I don't know. Maybe it's just the character the actor he chose. I don't know.
Yeah, good question. Good question.
That's the thing. Just to touch on Rose, like Alison Williams, man. Did you guys? I felt like I was bamboozled where I didn't think she was in on this whole
Yep.
All family
Well, yeah.
The first time, yep.
and like even after you see the pictures, I was like, she's been brainwashed. When she's searching for the keys, I'm like, she's freaking out too. I had this thing, and it was just like, oh shit! Like the acting was hot, and then just for her to go change into that other character where she's got the hair straight back. She
Yep.
seems like super like Hitler Youth.
Her skin is all oily. Like, she's a totally different person.
Yeah, and just sitting there with the Fruit Loops, looking up pictures on Google of NBA players, and like, it's so disturbing. The way she's on the phone, it's just like she's a completely different character.
When she talks to Rod, yeah, and you can hear her putting the voice on without expression. It's like Peele has such an incredible way to get performances out of the actors. Like even in this rewatch, I'm like, she is so likable. She is so charming. She's got sort of the manic pixie dream girl vibes, but she's not. She's a very grounded character, but she's just got this this enchanting quality that you're like, of course you'd fall in love with her. She's just such a cool person. And so you see how this honeypot works. And every time I watch it, I'm like, man, even though there's foreshadowing, like the scene where she talks to the cop and she's like, why do you want to see his ID?
Yeah.
That's not because of the race thing. It's because she doesn't want a record of him being there.
That's right. But the
But
first
it
time
totally
you watch it,
feels
it's
like
like,
that.
yeah.
Exactly.
So good.
I legitimately didn't even think about that until this time, which I think is my third or fourth rewatch. I was like, of course, it's like she doesn't want him to see the ID, like to know he was there.
Yeah.
I'm just like, of course. I've never thought that. I was just like, because she's such the modern rom-com protagonist. I feel like she's like, you wouldn't expect her to be such a villain in the horror movie.
No, she's kind of woke and she's like, I won't let anyone fuck with my man. And it's like, this girl's cool. She's got edge. Yeah. Just like Catherine Kinnear is terrifying.
Yeah.
Yes. I still can't drink tea.
Caleb Landry Jones is so creepy. Like,
at the dinner table, it's such a tense.
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
just like, oh, this is awkward, man, and he's
he's
just
like
like
with your
unhinged.
yeah. He's like with your genetic makeup, and you're just like, oh my god,
Be a
that
beast.
makes me cringe. You could be a
Yeah.
moose. Yeah, it's
Oh,
no phenomenal.
I
Um,
just like I love. I don't know. Like this is a really obvious one, but he like picks cotton to save his life. Like
yeah,
it's such a cool little thing. Like just throw it in there.
oh
But
my
like
god,
picking
that's
cotton
gone over
saves
my
his
head
life.
as well.
It's just so clever. I just
yeah.
love it. And then I don't know, the kills are really
Brutal.
satisfying. Like using the deer as the weapon. Holy shit!
Yeah.
I just like the stomping scene
Yeah,
is
Oh,
remarkable. Yeah, this and the
yeah,
sound design you hear just like shatter.
yeah,
yeah.
And then I
That,
mean we
that-
do. There you go.
I was just gonna say, like, because it's such a thing. Like, oh, he's escaping. It's like, okay, where's the confrontations? It's just like boom, straight away, antler. That dude's gone. Like, like
Yeah,
fight this dude. Obviously, he comes back, Caleb, but then yeah, just stomps him out and is just like, nah, I'm gonna kill you. Like,
I just think
absolutely.
he catches the knife in their hand because
Oh,
he's just so dead to the world. He just doesn't even
yep.
care. And it's like
Doesn't even react.
it's just this. It's just, because again, there's this great subtext there, right? Where because the whole sunken place is a fascinating concept that
Mm,
has kind of become memed and taken on its own life. But it's like this space is like where people of color occupy, where they're seen, not heard, and they kind of they want to be people want to know they exist because that makes them feel better about themselves, but they don't necessarily want to be actually seen or heard or make a difference. It's this
Hmm.
again, it's the insidious ways that racism works, but just the I don't know, like the way that and I've lost my train of thought, but now I'm thinking like the final scene, the very final scene where you see the cop car
yep.
and pull off, and it's just like I remember when I saw that in the movies, I
Yep.
was just we all audibly gasped.
Yep.
Yep.
Everyone, and it just takes this moment. It's like oh, that's the reaction that you want from a movie, and it achieves it. And wow,
Yep.
Yep.
And then to break that with comedy and it's
Yeah.
TS
TSA.
motherfucking A. Like it's so good. He's so genius.
And then there's just the silence, and he's just like, "I told you not to go in that house, man. Like I told you." Like,
sex slaves, sex
yeah.
slaves.
Um, just touching on, so I love like the first time I watched this, I didn't even pick up. Obviously, it looks a little different with the outfit that the dude was like the guy at the start. Obviously, it comes to when he says,
Oh,
"Oh, he went missing," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, that's the opening scene." But like when
yeah,
he shows up at the party, I'm like, "Oh, that's the guy from the opening scene that got kidnapped." Even though that actor is recognizable.
mm.
But that acting in that scene, like with how he's acting like an old traditional white man,
He's an
he's
old
just
man
like,
Yeah.
too.
"Oh yes, yes, how mannered of me." It's just like such great acting. I love it.
They all do
Camera
such a good
flash.
job of like being people in the wrong bodies. Like
Yep.
the grandparents. So good.
Mm.
Did you guys like that, having that as the opening scene, the black guy getting abducted? Because when I first saw it, I thought, is this a Predator moment? Like we're seeing the spaceship at the start and it's kind of giving away what's going on. But the rewatching, I'm like, no, it's important. Like that he comes back. Like it works well.
That's it. I feel like because of what comes after it, I forgot about that scene.
Same.
Like it just and it comes in nope later. There's something in the intro that I completely forgot until
Yes.
later
Yeah,
again. And it
Yes.
comes back and I'm
There's
like, oh,
good non
that's
sequitur.
yeah,
he's
like it's yeah.
he's a wizard at intro scenes. Like all of them have they have like the cold opens. They have this thing that really jars you and makes you unsettled from the get go.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's amazing to do it. Like it's just a way to. It's another little touch. I really like the opening scene of this because the twist of the film also like it kind of works in two ways because you know that this is a horror film coming into it, right? So you know something's gonna go wrong.
Mm.
But I think if like what I remember is expecting is okay, he's going to go there and him and Rose are going to discover that her parents are actually like cannibals or killers or something. And they're just
Yep.
good old fashioned racists. We're going to have like a Texas Chainsaw thing where they're like, you've got a black boy. It's going to be guess who's coming to dinner, but they kill the guests for dinner.
Yep.
But instead, and so seeing that scene, the opening scene where he gets kidnapped, you go, oh yeah, this is what happens. Black dudes get kidnapped or killed by white dudes in white neighborhoods.
Mm.
But then it kind of so you're expecting something, and that kind of gives you that. But then it undoes that with the Rose reveal, and you go, oh wait, this is much worse. This is
Yep.
much more insidious. And so you don't because you're kind of always thinking when you see the black staff and the Lakeith at the party, you're like, are they being like, are they
Brainwashed.
are they slaves or I was like, are they just being forced into this? Is there
Yep.
this weird thing where like their families are held hostage? I don't know because I don't think I expected it to be as kind of sci-fi, right? You're not expecting it to be brain transplants.
No,
like
absolutely not. That's so good too.
And so,
Never.
so you kind of think you're figuring it out, but then he flips it on its head, and you go, "Oh wow, I didn't expect it to go this way."
And
Yeah, they talk about it later. He's like, "Oh, you should be glad you got seduced by Rose because I hear her brot's a bit, a bit more rough."
he just
and like, that's what happened at the start. It's like, oh, of course, it all makes sense.
yeah. It's that's the thing. I feel like you have Rod who like purposely sort of guide, like you think he's on the right path, and I was 100% like, oh yeah, these people are being brainwashed. Like she brainwashes them with the tea thing, and they become these slaves for these people, like sex slaves or whatever, like legit sex slaves and shit. And yeah, no, I was not expecting brain transplants and actually taking over their body. It's crazy.
Yeah. Again, it combines that old because Jordan Peele's a really big horror fan, you can tell, like sci-fi
Yeah.
fan, and so it's combining that like Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
And it happens with all of them. He sees these ideas, and he's like, "There's an interesting racial element that can be explored through that," and that's kind of the genius of, I think, of all of his films. But it's kind of I know you guys mentioned it before. Like, this is what makes these films almost timeless in a way, is that you always get these films, and it's like it's something, but something, but on a condition of something. Like Die Hard is a cop film, but it's in one building. Like Predator is a slasher, but it's an alien in the jungle. Like it takes something familiar and changes it enough that it's like that is super interesting to us, and that's what he does with all these movies.
Yep.
All right. Do we leave Get Out there? Is there anything else we want to? I feel like we've at least mentioned most scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed I know it's a bit of an info dump, but where they sort of force him to sit down and watch like, this is what we've been doing throughout history. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like it's a good reveal.
I enjoy it.
It's fun.
Yeah.
All right, well, the second film, Us. Let me find the little synopsis. A family's serene beach vacation turns to chaos when their doppelgangers appear and begin to terrorize them. This is the weirdest of his three movies, I feel like.
Yep.
Like, I like it, and I enjoyed it more on this rewatch than I did the first time, I think. But the first time watching it, I'm like, has he lost it? Like, was Get Out just was Get Out just his good film and that's it? How did you guys feel?
I was the exact same as you. So first time, I just remember, I wasn't looking forward to it this rewatch because I remember being disappointed after Get Out. I was just like I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was a bad film, but it just didn't have the same thing. I never wanted to rewatch it really. I feel like I still don't enjoy it as much as his other films. But and I feel like this. I disagree with what Conan said earlier. I feel like this is the most horror one of all of them. At least I find this one the scariest for me personally.
I think I agree.
Okay.
But yeah, I definitely enjoyed it more like this time around. But yeah, I still don't feel it's as strong as Get Out, especially. But
Yeah, I actually I enjoyed it the first one. I think everyone saw this and was like, it's not as good as Get Out.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you follow that up?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it the first time. I think on the rewatch, I disliked it more.
Really?
And I didn't dislike it. I just didn't like it as much. I still enjoyed it, but what I found is that once you know the twist, and once you know the fact that there are so many questions that there's no answers provided,
Yes. Yep.
I found the rewatch really kind of unsatisfying. Like the first time, you were just, because again, you're in his channel,
not knowing what the hell's going on. Yeah.
and that's part of his thing. He's like, "This is what I take you. I take you on a ride." Like with Get Out, he's like, "You don't know what's fully going on until the last minute." And with this, I'm like, "There's doppelgangers. That's whack. Explain it to me, Peel." And he keeps just throwing shit at you and throwing imagery at you, and it's really good and it's really effective. But as it sort of wraps up, that's been the debate onwards. Like, what is Us about? And I will pose that question to you guys in a second. But at the time, I was like, it was a fun ride. And whereas once you've taken that ride on the rewatch, I'm like, I don't know, this isn't going anywhere. There's some great scenes, but it's just not really that compelling because it's like, who's the killer? I couldn't tell you. But I also know exactly who it is because there's a huge exposition dump in the middle of the movie, which is very terrifying, but a bit clunky.
I mean, I think the first time I watched this, I was like, oh, that girl got swapped at the beginning, because I knew it was about doppelgangers.
I didn't know. Okay, well,
Like, I totally like saw that twist like from minute 3 or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
Better than me too. I was like,
I
that
don't think
twist.
I
I
was
was
good.
like, what?
I was just like, that's such an obvious twist to do. If you're gonna have, you know, doppelgangers, you swap them. Like, isn't that just the thing you do in these types of movies?
Oh, smart guy.
That's how I felt anyway. But I enjoyed this rewatch more. I think this also opens with a weird non sequitur. The hands across America. Yeah. I enjoy the all the VHSs on the side are like his inspiration for this film. I feel like the obvious one is Chud, cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers. Like, it's such an obvious reference, and it's like sitting there right next to the opening of this movie.
Yeah.
Were you guys frustrated by then the conclusion being
Yes.
they all come up from the ground to do Hands Across America?
Yes.
And you're like, what the hell though?
Yes.
What is this? What is this movie about? I want you guys to tell me. What's it about? What's the critique of it?
Okay. I'll put my film school hat on. No, so I feel like this is info I got after YouTubing What Is Us About when I first watched it. But obviously, like, you know, inequality and privilege, as in people the same bodies or whatever in a different setting with different privileges grow up different. You know, people who aren't wealthy or anything like that, who are sort of living in these crappy areas, aren't going to grow up the same and have the same you know, privileges or everything like that. That's why they have the doppelganger thing, where she is one of the others. You know, she is from the underground, and now she's married and kids and can talk and has this like social life, while the other ones, you know, this repressed sort of thing, because they swapped roles, even though they're the same sort of thing. I feel like privilege is the main point. I feel like it is the most confusing of the 3 films, I feel like. I heard, like, you know, I saw a thing about how they're saying, you know, the Hands Across America thing was the last thing the true girl saw before she was swapped. Like, you know, she watched that film, then gets taken that day, so that's her last like memory of this world for years and years. So she's always had this idea of like, this is, you know,
this is how you make a statement for the world.
It left an impact on her as a kid, and it's something that she's been dwelling on. And that's the thing, it's building up the whole movie. It's like, what is going on? Like, why is this like line forming? Like, what are these people doing? But it's the whole underground thing's just is a little weird to me, and I feel like that's what I enjoy Get Out more. Get Out feels like it could be real, you know, in an absurd way, but it's believable. This is like, what's going on? Like, this is really absurd. But
there's a suspension of disbelief in all these movies, but I feel like Get Out, there's a logic behind everything that happens. I feel like in Us, they kind of just wave it away. Like, yes, these people are living underground. Yes, they're living off of rabbits. Yes, they're somehow tethered to those above them, and some of their actions match. But like, none of that logistically makes any sense, right? Like, where do the rabbits come from? They're going to run out of rabbits eventually. Or do they just breed infinitely? How are they fed? Because they have to be fed. Like, how do you fit an equal amount of people underground as you do above the ground? I know there's the big, you know, there's so many tunnels under the US, but it just, there's too many plot holes, too many leaps of logic there, I think, to follow. But, yeah.
Oh, you continue.
I was just going to say, like, I still enjoyed this film watching it this time. Like, the moment-to-moment, like, you know, kind of slasher horror, I think is really fun. Like, where Tim Heidecker, which is such a weird actor to have in this movie, like, very much have you ever seen, like, Tim and Eric? I'm the only one. So that's his white friend.
Oh, it's his white friend, okay. Yeah.
So him and Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah.
Look up Tim and Eric and you'll see the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Have you seen it's free real estate? That meme?
Oh, no? Yes.
Yeah.
So that's that guy. Like, they just do really surrealist comedy, and like, it's funny stuff. I enjoy it, but he's a weird role in this movie. Anyway, like, I enjoy their house getting taken by the others. Like, that's a really enjoyable sequence. It's really fun, and even when they come to the main character's house and they have to escape on the boat sequence is really good. Like, there's some fun sequences there in terms of the slasher part of it, but I think the social commentary is a lot more nebulous in this movie than it is in the others. I agree. Like, I took it to be about privilege, but then I've seen other people interpret it as like, this is the psyche of the doppelganger, and I don't know. There's some I don't know. There's other psychiatrist talk that I don't understand about the other self and stuff like that. Like, there's other things to explore there, but I think it's a lot more nebulous, and it doesn't hit as well as Get Out.
The other, like, obviously with politics and everything like that in America, especially at that time, I feel like I've read an interview with Peele where it's about the people that are like us. They have our faces but are different. Like they're the other, but we are more similar and everything like that.
It's no coincidence, right? This came out during the Trump presidency as well. Like, there's clearly
No.
an awareness of that. Like, your neighbor, your fellow American who should be your brother, like exactly like you, could actually be this, this killer, or you don't realize what you've got over someone else. That's the thing. There's so much. Like, I read a bunch of those readings as well, and the common one was like the privilege idea.
Yeah.
But things like, this is how you cope with trauma. This is just the irrational fear of the other and all this stuff. And that was my thing. He's asking a lot of questions, but he doesn't provide any answer or any internal logic to it. He's just throwing questions out in the room, which is still really fun and like still admirable. Like, I respect films for doing that. I just think there comes a point where you can't just do too much and then be like, I don't have to provide a meaning. You guys figure it out. And be like, especially because he has one-off sentence where he's like, they were created by a cabal of people, but that wasn't working, so they abandoned them here. I'm like,
what is
so what's the
people?
Yeah, exactly. Who's this cabal? What the hell? Like, was this Reagan who did this? I need to know the answers. Like, he seems to have an idea of what it is, but he hasn't fully fleshed it out. Which, I get. This film is still really good. I guess my other problem with it was like all the kills. The horror parts are great. The home invasion where they come in the first part is terrifying, and seeing them stand there on the at
the top of the driveway, nightmares. That's what I picture when I'm like, this is the most scariest film.
Yeah.
Them all holding hands in the driveway.
And again, it shows that scene so many times, and every time it's like, oh, that's creepy.
It lingers on it, right? Yeah, like you're saying totally with Get Out.
Takes its time, but then like the father gets killed really quickly with like kind of a funny scene with the boat. Yeah, and in the home invasion in Elizabeth Moss's house, it's funny. Like it is funny. It's got the Beach Boys song playing, and then it plays "Fuck the Police." Like so even though it is kind of creepy, it's constantly undone. This film's a lot more funny in my I know in the rewatch I saw that more, which is fine. It just didn't click for me as much.
Like I don't know. I still find that enjoyable though. Like the home invasion of the White family, that reminds me of like the pub scene in Shaun of the Dead, right? Like the music going to the kills and stuff. Like, I don't know. There's a connection there. I feel like, but with the home invasion, I like where they all kind of get separated with their doppelganger, and the kids in the cupboard with him with the lighter and stuff. Oh, it's all so creepy. I really
creepy. The boy's creepy.
Really enjoy it. The boy is super creepy.
Yeah.
And the girl. Oh, the girl is terrifying.
She looks so disturbing. Yeah. The smile and like the greased hair.
Just the ability to run endlessly. Yeah.
Terminator again.
Why does he mirror him? Is that ever explained?
The tether is still there. But that's what I was going to ask with the whole fire thing. I just
that scene is so cool. Like watching him back into the fire is really cool.
Yeah.
But there's not a logic there, right? Like a lot of elements in this movie, there's a lack of real reason for why that happens. It doesn't really make sense. But it's good. Like, it makes for a good scene, like him walking backwards and I don't know.
Conan, what's your thoughts on like the ending thing with the son putting the mask on his face after looking at the mum?
I mean, he obviously figures out that she's the
other.
She's an other.
Yeah, she's the other. So he knows for some reason, because he's obviously a bit of a weird kid. I don't know. He might be autistic. There's something off about him, right? Like they explain it to it that he doesn't learn properly or doesn't hear, or it takes him a while to focus or something. So he's clearly got like he's a little bit odd, or is there something wrong with him? So I think like that's why he can pick up on it where the others can't.
He also sees her like brutally.
He's also in the underground. Yeah,
that's
he
true.
gets to see all those scenes.
He sees her screaming as he massacres them. I don't know. I didn't get the mask necessarily. I don't know if it's like a. But again, it's like you could read into that as he's going to wear a mask for the rest of his life now because he knows the reality. He knows the truth, and so he's going to pretend to be someone else, like his mother
Well,
did.
he's going to pretend to not know that she's another and like treat her as his
That's-
mother. Like, there's lots of ways you can read it, which
Yeah,
is the fun
what
part.
I've
Like,
seen.
that's what I enjoy about his movies. Is I don't think any of these readings are necessarily wrong, but I feel like this one doesn't offer enough logic between those moments.
No. How friggin' good though is Lupita Nyong'o?
Oh, awesome.
She plays two characters in
Yeah.
this. It's like watching it again. It's like holy shit, she's amazing.
The way she
Yeah.
talks as well, she's not the other. She's technically the real person.
Yeah,
It's like super creepy. I hate her raspy voice. It's
I know, it's scary.
it's like nails on a chalkboard. It's so well done.
it's
so well done.
Subtle. I just like how she gets the tears when she's talking. It's like she's it's amazing acting, right? Making yourself cry like that. It's how do you do that? I don't know, but like they're all really good in this as well. Even the kids are really good. The husband's hilarious. He's lots of
Yeah,
fun.
Winston Duke is a great actor as well. I really like him.
Obviously, yeah, Elizabeth Moss is really good. She's kind of the vapid housewife. It's their whole
Yep.
relationship, they sort of hate each other, and
Yeah.
they spoil kids. It's like
Yep.
it's funny.
Good. I feel like this movie lacks a lot of the foreshadowing and stuff that makes Get Out so enjoyable. Like there's that moment where the frisbee lands directly on the dot on the tower. Did you guys notice that? So they're at the beach and someone throws a frisbee. It lands in front of her and it lands directly over a dot. And I suppose you could look at this is the mirrored image below and stuff, but it just feels so much weaker than what we get in Get Out.
Yeah, and she comments about that. She's like, "Oh, that was weird," and she says later, like, "Weird stuff's been happening all day, but it's it doesn't really translate."
I saw a comment like about that whole thing, like how she can't naturally get the rhythm, like where she's clicking her finger to the beat and talking to the son in the car,
Yeah.
and like
I
it's
didn't
because
even
she
notice
didn't like have the soul to like just learn that. It's something she had to learn to do with the beat instead of just feeling it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I did not even notice that.
I wouldn't have either until the analysis. I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And that's there's a community around these movies, which is a lot of fun to like engage in.
The other thing that really works, it works in all of them, but in this one, it's probably on the show the most, is like his imagery and his iconography, like the gloved hands and the scissors. Like that was the poster for it. Was just that holding the scissors, and that's really kind of distinctive. Now, if you see that weird glove and that, you know exactly what it is. It happens with the Get Out as well. Like the teacup's pretty iconic. The Teutonic helmet he has is really weird. And like you see those, like the bunnies in this, you see all these images and you're like, oh, that's identifiable as this.
Even the holding hands now, I feel like he's
like that shot. Yeah, that shot is very like I can imagine seeing that on Framed that we all play, and I'll be like, that's us.
Yeah.
He's just got a knack for that, like telling stories and telling information through like single images and like symbolism and stuff. I guess it's not as strong in this. You're right.
Is there like a reason why they have that glove and the scissors though? Like it
Never explained.
doesn't connect back to anything. That's my problem with it.
How do they get 6 billion red jumpsuits?
It's a great question. They're just born with them.
They're born in little jumpsuits that grow. Yeah, it's I don't know. A lot of questions.
a lot of questions with this one.
I like the flashbacks to the psychiatrist office, and she's like, "It's not my daughter anymore. It's not the same person." Like it's kind of super obvious, but
I should have noticed that. You're really making me feel dumb now.
That's just PTSD, man. It's traumatic.
Well, that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, if I saw myself, I'd be pretty freaked out. So yeah, she's a weird kid. She suffered through that. But you're right. In retrospect, it's like, how did I not pick up on that? It's
She's wearing a Thriller t-shirt. Doesn't he transform in that? Like, there's another. Anyway, there's so much subtext. I just feel like it's a lot weaker in this film. All right, should we get on to Nope?
Nope.
Yep.
Nope.
Yep.
Sorry, wrong one. The residents of a lonely gulch in inland California bear witness to an uncanny and chilling discovery.
You go. You saw it most recently.
I saw this film today. Went the Get Out approach. Did not see anything. Had no idea what this movie was about at all.
You didn't see the trailers?
No.
Did you know it was about aliens?
No.
So I went in with was knowing I saw the very first trailer, so I knew it was about aliens, and I'm like, that's enough for me.
I heard the first trailer spoiled stuff, and people were like, "Don't watch the first trailer." So I
No,
didn't.
the
You go.
second trailer spoiled lots of stuff. The first trailer was
Okay.
great. The first
Yeah.
trailer was just
Okay.
enough to make it freaky, but the second trailer revealed a
I'll have
lot
to
more.
go back and watch the first trailer and everything now.
Yeah.
Watched nothing. Nothing. Anytime an ad came on, especially during State of Origin this year, I was like, "Nope." And I walked out. I was like, "No, I don't want to see anything in regards to this." So I walked in completely blind, had no idea what direction this movie was heading, and was guessing left, right, and center for the first half. I was like, all right, something with the monkey, something about maybe circus animals or something's going on. What's this weird phenomena with coins falling out of the sky? I was
Yeah.
just tripping. Did not expect it to go the way it did, especially then when you think you know where it's going. Obviously, with the twist of what that is up there,
Mm.
I did not see that coming, and that's yeah. I love this film. I
Hmm.
really loved this film. So I really, really enjoyed this film. Just want to get that out there first.
Yeah, no, like I tried to come in as blind as I could, and you're right. Like this movie, I think even if you had seen those trailers, this movie takes a lot of turns, and I think they're all handled really, really well. Unlike Us, but more like Get Out. And yeah, like it asks a lot, like it gives you a lot of questions at the start, but then it answers pretty much everything. Like there's some mystery out there, but I'm okay with it. Like it's nothing that I can't get behind, right? Like, yeah, and this movie it's just a lot of fun. It's really, really good.
I had the same. I just had the same thought. So I saw the first trailer I loved, and I like watched it a bunch, and I got into all the theories, and I was like, "What's it going to be about?" And people were talking about it's an acronym for not of planet Earth,
Yes, I saw
and they were linking it back.
Oh,
They were linking it back to an obscure Twilight Zone episode that involved replacing people with alien counterparts. And there's a trailer breakdown. It's like, see this person here? They want to take the DNA of horses and become this other thing. And I was like, this is going to be juicy, man. So I was in on it. I was really deep in the rabbit hole. Saw the second trailer, and I was like, oh, they just told me everything. But like you
that's
said, Grider. But no, but then I watched it. I was like, it actually doesn't. They did a
mm,
really good job of like again subverting it because of the reveal and when you discover what it actually is and what's going on. It all like you sort of came into it being like, yeah, this is definitely about aliens and they're trying to find a UFO. But what they're doing with that and what the UFO is doing is vastly different to what I was expecting. And I felt really I never felt ripped off or cheated. I was like, this is great. You've tricked me here, but it's not because of that. It's just because you showed me the trailer, you held information, and you've told me a great story. Like I don't
old
get
Mass it was the old Mass Effect twist, man.
the Mass Effect twist. I don't get the polarizing criticism for this movie. Have you guys seen much about the feedback?
I, I was
it is
so confused that
polarizing. I see that. Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get why so many people are against it. It's like this movie is not nearly as horror. This is more of a thriller.
Mm.
I think it's because there's really only one scene of gore, and besides, again, it's pretty funny. So it's a lot more. To me, it's a lot more of a thriller than it is even a horror film. But
It
so
has its
many like
moments though.
it does. It
Eh,
does.
it feels like it's building up a lot. Like
Mm.
this is a pun to do with the movie. I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like it
Yeah.
was just this thing that I was like, okay, what's going to happen? There's the one scene in the bar where it's actually the kids, but I was like, oh my god, what is this movie about? Like this is
Oh, that
freaking me
scene
out,
is terrifying.
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
It,
And then
it,
I love that
it,
he just punches it in the
yeah.
face.
It's such a good fake out. Like, holy shit, they're revealing the aliens. What is going on here? And they move so creepily. And then there's a second one. And it's like, what the hell? And then,
Yep.
yeah, it's such a fake out. It's so good.
Yeah,
Really.
I love it.
Because that was that moment where he's watching past the barn and you see its head move. That was
Oh
one of
yeah.
the biggest. That was one of the biggest like things in the trailer that
Yeah.
breakdown videos were talking about. And they're like, oh,
Oh,
so
that
they're
was in the
aliens.
trailer.
Like you see the top of its
Oh,
head. You see the top of its head move, and so and then you see if it showed you the toys that Jupe has set up, and it's like see they try to
so people
merchandise
like,
the aliens.
yeah, okay,
And
yep,
so yeah, to have that
Okay.
as like a fake out in the middle is like holy crap, that's so good. But again, in
yep,
that scene, the camera just lingers and it shows you this little alien slowly stand up, and it's like oh
Yeah.
man,
And you don't know
that's
what it is at first. Like, what is he looking at? And then it just
no.
slowly moves, and it's like, oh,
I
I'm
didn't
creeped out.
notice it there at first. I was looking in the doorways at the
Yeah.
end of that room, and I was
yeah.
like, "What's coming out of there?" And then I was like, "Oh, there's something moving here." I was like, "Oh my god, what is it?" I was like, it was just, oh, it was freaking me out, man. It was such a great scene. And then yeah, it just I felt like a build, and I kept being like, when does it get like? I was like, is this a horror? Like, when does it get to the stuff that's like that? And I loved it where it went with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he does that. He really does that. He makes us the spectator in the same way with Get Out, right? That he makes us the. He basically puts us in Daniel Kaluuya's shoes. he makes us feel what what he's feeling as this one black guy in a sea of white guys. And the same way in this, in Nope, he makes us feel like spectators, and we're constantly looking at the sky. There's so many shots of the sky,
Yeah.
and when it happens, you're always looking in every corner. You're like, where's it going to come from?
Is that cloud sitting still? What's going on there?
Exactly. And you're like, I'm trying to catch a glimpse of everything in every scene, and I can sort of see why the budget with this is so much bigger, right? There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of CGI. There's like, I don't know. This movie really needs to be seen on the cinema as well, like on the big screen, because there's so many shots of sweeping vistas in the canyon. And you're also watching, you're like, what's going on with that horse down there? Why is that shadow moved here? He makes you the spectator again, which just sort of builds that tension and that unease, because you're like, what am I going to find? What am I looking at? It's so good.
I love the use of the wacky inflatable tube man as well. Just like you see one go down, it's like, oh, okay, like it's coming, sort of thing. They do it great. I just want to say shout out to Angel. Angel's an awesome character. Like after he showed up from the Best Buy scene, I was like, I hope he's in it more. And then like the fact that he stayed in there, I was just like, oh, I really like this too. So,
everybody was so good in this. Like Steve Ewan, I love him. Like I always loved him in The Walking Dead, and he's really good in this movie.
He is.
Soup is great. We get another non sequitur opener with the chimp scene.
Yep.
Like
terrifying.
I was like, what the hell is what is going on? And it was terrifying. You're right. Like it's really, and that the opening scene's not too bad. Like it's creepy, but you don't get they show the extended scene later where it's just like wow.
And they still don't show you the stuff.
That's
like,
right.
Yeah.
It's always just out of frame, and you're like, I can hear what's going on. Like it's like the most scary scene almost, because it's just like your imagination's going wild, sort of thing. But it's it's such a great scene, such a horrifying scene.
Yeah, because I was reading, it's like it's based off or it's probably inspired by a real life case of like a celebrity monkey that killed her owner's friend. Like, not so didn't kill, like disfigured her really hideously.
Yep.
And that's she, like when she appeared in an interview, she had the veil over her face like the survivor in that.
Yeah.
But obviously, yeah, he's riffing on that idea of our obsession with like our spectatorship, right? We want to see this. We want to tame predators. We want to see these animals do tricks, and it's like we just love the idea of it. And that's the spectacle of it, and being like, wow, this monkey shouldn't be doing this, but it is. And it's the same way. It's the whole. That's what they're trying to do with this creature. They're trying to see it. They're trying to watch it, and they toy with God. What did you guys make of the shoe? I can't figure out. I can't find a proper answer for this.
So
I looked around and I couldn't find a good answer either.
So that's the thing. I was like mystified because I saw all these theories where people were like, "Oh, did it have something to do like gravity?" Because before the reveal of what it is, I was like, "There's got to be some weird, magnetic thing or something that was going on at the same time near this area." Apparently, I saw like a person do an analysis on it just before I started the podcast. Who like said it's like how he talks about like the bad miracle.
Bad miracle.
It's just this thing's landed there that catches his eyes, which makes him not make eye contact
with the monkey,
with Gordy, which is what saves him because he didn't find him as an aggressor.
He also had he also had the tablecloth over his eyes,
the
like
veil,
the veil,
so he couldn't see his eyes. So it calmed him down because he felt like it's this territorial thing of like not being an aggressor in the situation, but that caught his eye and sort of saved him. And it's this weird thing, like he has it, on the mantle in the framed like that. This thing that he thinks, like he has this bond or whatever, or he was able to overcome this thing with Gordy. And
he thinks it's
it's
a bit of a divine moment, so he's kind of special and he can tame this other creature too, right?
But he cannot.
Spoiler alert!
How good is like the group abduction scene where he's like, we got an hour. Here comes the kids to do a little dance for us, and then out it comes. It's a little early, and it's just
that's the horror moment, right? Yeah, you see them squashed in. And
the scene of them squashed in is horrifying, and is what I think will stick with me from this movie. Is just that realization of like, oh my god, this is what this is. Like this is horrifying in here, like, and that's what that noise is like these people, like the noise of
them screaming as it flew around.
Screaming.
The sound design in this movie, holy crap.
Oh man. chills.
There's
I got chills.
Yeah, you can hear in the background every now and then. It's like this howling. Yeah, and it's like, oh, it's people getting eaten.
Yep.
Oh, I just like the raining blood scene is it's like it blew my mind.
Yeah.
You just it all goes quiet and then it just like comes down the window. It's like from The Shining or something, and then
Yep.
it's just
Yep.
all over their house. It was amazing.
Yep. Oh man, such a good,
Um,
such a good scene.
like, what did you guys think of the twist? The reveal. It's not a UFO. It's a UAB.
UAP.
It's a living creature. Like it was.
Yeah.
I can't believe no one's ever thought of that. Right?
What, like, that's the thing with this twist. Like, what a unique movie in 2022. Like, it's original. I feel like, and it's
Mm.
this thing that, like I said earlier, the Mass Effect twist. It's not actually a ship. It's the thing.
Yeah.
But
Creature.
it's I loved the twist. Like the second that moment clicks, I was just like, oh my god, that's what this is. This is such a cool thing for this horror film to go in this direction. I loved the twist. So I
It's good.
haven't seen the negative discourse about it, but I knew it had a lower score critically, and I knew it was a bit like divided the opinion on this. I know Logan Paul didn't like it. That made
Oh dear.
news stories, but
Crap.
yeah,
It's I like that it's a living creature. It's interesting, like the way it unfurls itself and becomes this otherworldly thing, and like you can look back in history and Roswell was apparently an air balloon, and maybe that was the air balloon, and then I've seen a lot of people talk about biblically accurate angels.
Yeah.
And how they, how they unfurl and have all these eyes and stuff like that, and maybe that's what they were seeing. Like it's interesting how that can tie into history.
That was a really fascinating reading I saw. Yeah, like because angels appear and they're terrifying to people. They seem terrifying. And it's like,
Yeah,
is this what that is? Like, and I don't. Yeah, like because obviously this starts with the quote from the book of Nemua, whatever it is. I don't know.
the
So yeah,
Maya, yeah,
Nemaya, I'll cast filth on you and make you a spectacle.
yeah,
And like, I don't know if he's taking it any further than just that, but it's an interesting idea. Like that miracle again, right? Like,
yeah.
what's a bad miracle? Is there such a thing? Is this actually the best thing happen? Like, do you see that TMZ reporter who's going to come and he's going to get the shot? And it's like
yeah.
maybe it's actually a really good thing for some people because of what they see. I don't. It's a fascinating idea. That TMZ reporter, that scene actually was really creepy as well, right? This dude appears. He's got like a reflective helmet,
Yeah.
I had no idea what was going on. I was like, yeah,
and it's like, is this guy like going to start shooting people? Like, what's? It was because he seems to know that he can't look at it. And that's why he's got a, that's what I read it as. He's got a reflective helmet because he doesn't want to be seen as looking at the creature. And I don't know if
Yeah, I'm
I don't
not
know
sure.
if I'm reading into it, but it was just he rides up and he's like, you see that cloud? It's not moving. Like, oh, something's going to go down. The government's
that
going to roll
I
up.
thought this dude was like some old. Before they said TMZ, I thought this guy was like he's onto it. He's this guy who's been tracking this thing for
Yeah.
ages.
Mm.
The uncomfortableness when he showed up and he's there like talking to her.
Yeah,
I thought he was going to pull out a gun and shoot her, and I was going to be like,
Yeah.
"Oh
sure.
god, this is going to be this is where it's going now." There's this other party, that's going to wreck
Well,
everything up.
she
But
calls him like a man in black, and I thought, oh, this is the government coming in. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's a little weird that a house covered in blood didn't get investigated when there was, a mass of people going missing not far away. There's kind of a plot hole there, but so that's where I thought that was coming from. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think the story with him is he wanted to be part of the spectacle, right? Like he wanted to get in there and be involved in it. I don't know how the reflective suit fits in that though.
Like it honestly could just be me reading into it, but I thought it was it's just one of those details that I can imagine him just like in costuming. Like, what if it was reflective, so the creature sees itself? It might not have meant anything, but I'm like that just has an interesting work, and it's in the moment. I remember that really made me think like it knows what it is. This guy knows what's happening.
mm,
Is it government? Is it going to go that path? It's really tense, like you said, Luke. He's like talking to it, and he pulls out the camera. He's like,
yeah,
it puts you on edge the whole time.
yeah,
And then he rides under it, just goes, ah.
yep. And then he's like, "Oh man, he's dead," and you just hear, "Ah!" It gave me Austin Powers vibes.
Oh, it's great.
Mustafa.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the finals, I really enjoyed the final sequence and seeing like it's the true form and stuff like that. I was like, oh my god, this is like getting more hectic and more hectic. It's crazy.
Yeah,
But,
and it just keeps unfurling and unfurling. Yeah.
yeah.
And I guess the subtext there as well, right? Like we think it's this UFO because it looks like a flying saucer, and how spectators get so fixated on that stuff. And people see something and like, this is what it is. I know the truth. I'm like an alt-right truther. I've seen this thing or whatever. And that becomes, you're obsessed with having to see this thing that you think could be tamed, or you think is something, or you think could make you money. And then it's like, no, this can't be comprehended. This is something that we don't have an answer to. And to his credit, Peel really keeps that vague. Like with the shoe, he's like, this is something that's happened, and it's not about what's actually happening. It's about how we react to it. It's about how some people try to monetize it. Some people get obsessed with it. Like the cinematographer, he goes in and has to witness it because he's like, this is an impossible thing.
Yeah.
He dies for his art, for the one perfect shot.
Exactly, and it's really fascinating how it all works.
Yeah.
And then it's got that great that Jaws ending where he blows it up with the balloon.
Yeah.
But it fits with the balloons that set the monkey off too. Like there's some
It's
really
the
good
same
foreshadowing
sound,
there. Like it's so
apparently, as
good.
well.
Oh, same sound as that's great.
Yeah. And even to the monkey scene, when each of them balloons were like popping, it gave me like, I was like, oh god, that's like an unsettling thing when it kept going off. Like the opening scene, obviously we get this thing with the monkey, but then the opening credits, we see the inside of it, and we don't know what it is. Because like it's the shot, and it ends up on the shot of like the original motion picture thing of the guy on the horse, but it's showing like the insides of it, and you hear like screaming and stuff like that and stuff going on. So they show at the start of the film like what this is. But yeah,
I guess he just holds the information back. You never know what it is, but that's it's something creepy, and it's just kind of keeps you on edge for the whole film.
Yeah.
I like like what it sort of did as well with, I guess, Hollywood history. Like this film's got a lot of nods to it, right? Like it has a story about their ancestor being the first jockey, which no one actually knows who that is. So he's fictionalizing this family, but it's just that idea of like how the white cameraman from there is remembered historically, but the actual movie star, his name's forgotten to history.
Black Erasure, yeah.
And I guess they just talk a lot about this old sitcom. Like, it's a throwback to all these classic sitcoms of the time. Dupe's like this washed up child star, and he had this string of films. It's just interesting unpacking how, again, our obsession with Hollywood and like how people get chewed up by that system
and spat out.
Chewed up and literally spat out. The waste gets spat back to Earth, and but how we're just like, that's not it's seeing the moment. It's seeing them in that time, no matter the cost. Is like, this film is so thematically strong, just like Get Out. And I think that's why I enjoyed it heaps more, because he's clearly got a point and a commentary and a take on it, and delivers.
I feel like Get Out. I can't wait to watch this again. Like I want to see it again, and it's a film where I feel like it's an easy rewatch. I feel like almost I'm excited to watch it with my wife because she didn't get a chance to watch it yet, so I'm excited to watch it with her. So yeah.
My wife's not a horror fan. Do you reckon she'd still be able to watch this?
Yeah,
like, honest question.
A comedy.
No, honest question though. And besides the one part of ingestion and regurgitation, do you reckon
it's monkey?
Oh yeah, true.
There's the monkey. There's the blood rain scene, and even the moments around that where he's in the car trying to get back, and he's not sure if it's above him, and he's darting over to the other vehicle. That's like that whole scene is really creepy, and also the kids.
Yeah,
there's a few moments.
I'm not watching it with her.
I love with the car thing where he's just like, nope.
Yeah.
Like, no. Just gonna stay here.
It's really good.
The amount of times they threw that word in, just Carrie's going nope. It
was like right at the start too, because it's in that sitcom. She says nope.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yep. That just as well. Like I feel like we touched on it earlier, but like with Keith David at the start, just not knowing what was going on, and just the noise, like you hear the spattering, like the metal spattering around and stuff like that, and just then his head's pouring blood in the car. I was just like, what is going on? It was just
that was
creeping me out. I was like, I had no idea what was going on.
And they take the X-ray, and it's like directly in his eye, like he's like it seems aimed, right? Like it's directly in his eye. It sits at the base of his brain, and it's like, was he assassinated by something? But it's just a bad miracle, right? Like it just
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's so thematic. It's so good. I just love when Jordan Peele's on his game because it's so thematically strong. He just does. Oh,
Like, just so Conan, you go. I'm just gonna find out something. But
I just think like talking about Jordan Peele, right? Because there was that tweet that Jordan Peele shared where someone was like, "Is he the best horror director ever?" And Jordan Peele was like, "Stop it!
yeah,
Like, I will not hear you be talking bad about John Carpenter."
yeah.
But it's a question that's getting thrown around. Like, is Jordan Peele the next best voice? Is he one of the best voices now? Is he the best voice? Like, it's a legit question, right? He's on 3 for 3. Like, what do you guys think of it? Do you think he's like, does he go on and just keep doing these amazing stuff? Is he gonna make a bad film? Do you guys think that this can only go on for so long, or
I think
I mean-
yes, he is going to make a bad film, but I think I think everybody like has missteps. I just appreciate that he's got such a strong voice, and I think he has changed horror movies for the better. Like to have a voice, to have to have something to say.
yeah, yep. They've all got a. It's not a gore fest. It's not body horror like or something like that. It's this. There's a political message there, or not political, but social commentary for each film. But
I say that. Do you think there's been many horror films come out since then that have had a good, strong message? The one that comes to mind is The Invisible Man. It was really fascinating.
oh, it's a great film.
And the look at, her being, her...
gaslighting and
gaslighting, that sort of thing. Yeah, like that was fascinating. Conan, you're probably the biggest horror fan here. Do you feel like there's been a change in horror?
So it's like saying that the term elevated horror is like the sort of the
Thrown around, yeah.
the question of where horror's at as a genre. And it started probably in 2014 or 15, but it really got rampant with this film. This is the one that really made people cling to it and be like, this is elevated horror. This is where the genre needs to go. And I think a lot of movies are trying to because you had Hereditary the same year, which is the other big one. And then you had Midsummer a couple of years later, and they're all like, that was really lauded and people loved it. And the Invisible Man did an incredibly turnaround to, again, it's like over $100 million to a budget of like 10 million.
Mm.
So I think that is where, and then you have things again, like, I don't know, a small horror film that came out that I really enjoyed called X. It was kind of like it wasn't elevated, but it was like very self-aware and to a point of like satire. I think horror isn't it? Like horror's always been political though, is the thing. Horror's always had a message. Like you look back at early ones like Godzilla, was about the fear of nuclear annihilation and what that can be. Slasher films are sort of like the 80s America of like the fear of this encroaching otherness and like sex and drugs on the street,
Mm.
And there was a racial element there as well, like these communities where drugs are going and everyone's just like these crazed murderers are going to kill my precious white children. So horror's always had that to it. I don't like the term's pretty bad. I don't like the term because it really does rule out a lot of others. But I think you're right. These movies have made they've shown filmmakers that it's profitable. They've shown filmmakers that having this gets your respect both as the audience, but it also makes bank. Whereas if you made Friday the 13th remake, I don't think it would sell as much.
I feel like
I don't. Yeah.
these films are for like the modern, or like not modern, but like the casual audience almost, where like people like Griner or myself who aren't a big horror fans will go to the cinema to watch these sort of films.
The thing is, though, they do have a lot of references to the horror films of the past. Like Peele's massively influenced by them. He talks about it all the time. And like this film, there was a lot of talk about Jaws before it, and everyone's like, "Why is that?" But then it makes total sense when you see the film.
It kind of is Jaws with a UFO, right? Like
yeah.
But I think that is an interesting thing, though. I think you're right. It's like horror's always been a dirty genre, right? And what I mean by that is people have always felt sort of ashamed, or it's never been regarded highly.
Yeah.
The Oscars have never, until Silence of the Lambs, have never respected a horror film. They've never given it the time of day. And it's debatable if that's even a horror film. But it's always been a genre that's like schlocky and considered B grade. And it's always been one, people, even though they always make money at the cinema, but it's just been the sort of genre that people enjoy because it's exploitive. It's never been seen as true art, which is really stupid. And this is the film that people can see these are the films people can see without feeling guilty.
Yeah.
They shouldn't feel guilty. But if you say to someone, I'm just going to watch some horror films, there is a bit of like you like horror, okay. You could be seeing a cool character drama or something.
We think that about you, Conan, when you say
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
When I get up here, I'm like, I saw some horror films. You guys like,
When we do a year in review, and it's
three
always
horror
3 horror films.
films.
Yeah.
But these are the films, like, if you see these, everyone's like, that's cool. That's a good, that's art. That's
Yeah.
that's a good horror film. And I hate that. That sucks. But I think that is what people are doing now. That's definitely what horror is sort of trying to emulate at the moment. And the problem is when you get people who aren't like Peel, who don't have a clear idea of the world and a clear thing they're trying to explore, it falls apart. Like you get some really bad. Like there was one that came out recently called They Them with Kevin Bacon, and it's like he plays a counselor at a gay conversion camp or something, and it was just meant to be atrocious because it's clearly riffing on that like we're elevated horror. It's the horror of this thing. But I don't think, but no one actually cares about that story. No one's made that story with a real reason. They're cashing in on it. Whereas Jordan Peele is like, no, this is something I actually care about, something I've really thought about and want to do. And you need those visions behind it.
I so touching on like the critical reception, I just wanted your opinion. So you said Metacritic earlier, but so Rotten Tomatoes, just want to Get Out is 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Us is 93. Nope is currently 82, but a day or two ago it was at 78. So it's gone up
82.
recently, but yeah, it's different than the other two. I don't agree with that necessarily in that order or anything like that, but yeah.
I just don't understand it.
I loved the film. I was like, I went in expecting it to be the worst of the three. Like I went in being like, yeah, people aren't liking this one as much, which is a shame. And came out, I was like, oh, that was freaking awesome. That was one of my favorite movies of the year. So yeah.
No, I was the same. I came out of it like blown away. And I
Yeah.
was a little bit like, is this the one where he stumbles? Is this where he messes up? Like,
Is it just the genre? Is it just what it deals with as its like the horror element that it's just isn't resonating with some people?
Let me read out to you some mixed reviews from Metacritic. The tagline. Nope doesn't have a plot so much as a series of happenings that spill out in an impressionistic and arbitrary way. Logic often takes a back seat, and that has the unfortunate effect of lessening our involvement. What Nope lacks is not ambition or ideas, but clarity, which is why the appropriate response to is not a resounding yes, but all right, not bad. What else have you got? As Nope swerves and reels, it often seems distracted by itself, unable to hold its focus on any one thing long enough for deeper meaning or feeling of coalescence. I feel like those reviews should be written about us.
Yes,
like
100%, 100%. That's my thoughts on us. 100%.
that's so weird. Like, to say this film has no clarity makes no sense.
I feel like, and I feel like the saying it's a series of events, like it is a little vignette-y, like, you have those title cards that shows the name of the animal that we're looking at. But I think it works really, really well. Like, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, well, and a new one popped up. It was like, oh, okay, here we go. Like,
yeah. But it's got the pacing of like of an investigation film, right? They're like, we're hunting something. All right, here's the plan.
Yeah.
And they execute. It's like, oh, the plan didn't work out. Well, we need to make a new plan. How do we do it here? Like, that's kind of like a timeless narrative of like any journalism film, any like spy or mystery film. You're right. It does have it kind of has the tendency to be seen as that, but I just think that's the natural pacing and like telling form of this kind of film. So I don't see how that's even a criticism.
Yeah, I don't agree with those reviews in any way. I really love this movie. It was great.
Yeah,
crazy.
So I think you go.
So did you guys see the after credits scene?
No.
What?
Nah, look, I'm selling it up here. There was a brief. There was a single frame, and it was basically an ad for Dupe's. What do you call his park? Jupiter's Park, whatever it was called, his amusement park.
Jupiter's Claim.
But it says as seen on Nope, and it's kind of implied that they got the Oprah shot, they showed it, and now they've opened the park up, and people are coming to see them now. Like they're the ones profiting off this farm. It was an interesting little. It maybe gives you an idea of where this film goes after it ends.
I had a whole thing like when the credits started going. I was like, there won't be a post-credit scene. I was like, this ain't Marvel. I was like, there's only 3 people here. We're all leaving.
Yeah, it was literally a single frame. What probably wasn't worth staying for, but it was interesting.
I don't know. I want to see it now. As I left, there were some people still sitting there, and I was like, "What are you fools doing? Jordan Peele doesn't do this." Boy, the egg is on my face though. I'm just so excited to see where he goes next, right? Like, this was my most anticipated film of the year, and it's really delivered. And I don't want to wait 2 or 3 more years. I want it now.
I think you're going to have to. Would you
Yeah.
like to see him continue? I mean, we probably know what he's working on next, but would you like to see him continue on in horror or move on to a different genre? Or
I think keep on the path he's on until we have a miss. I don't know. Like, obviously, he's got strong suits in comedy as well, but like, I don't know. Does he? Keanu wasn't as good as these films.
Yeah,
Like, that's
he only co-wrote that. He didn't direct it.
I think
to be fair,
this is his shtick almost now. I feel like this is his thing, and it's what I want to see. Like, I'm excited for. I don't want to wait another 7 years for another Jordan Peele horror
the problem
film.
with having a shtick though is people get tired of doing it, right? Like they want to move on and do something different.
Yeah.
I do, and I do wonder. It's like that'll be the test of him as a true filmmaker, right? And that sounds pretentious, and maybe it is, but you get directors like, I know Wes Craven's a good example, horror legend. Never even wanted to make horror films though. Wanted to make dramas. He made a drama. He finally got the chance when he like made a bunch of bad horror films, and it was apparently terrible. Does that mean he's a bad director? I don't think so, but it is just an interesting thought experiment. Like, did he just know his genre so well and he can make great films in that? And I wonder if that's this, like, if Jordan Peele makes an action blockbuster, what does he say in that? And does he because part of the strength of these films is what he's saying, and he's got a theme, he's got a thesis. I don't know, but at the same time, he does have an incredible visual eye. Like, there are so many scenes in this from perspectives, and like in Get Out, I just picked up on it. There's this thing called a Dutch angle, which is where you angle the camera off, and when Daniel Kaluuya is talking to his girlfriend by the water, and he's recounting the story of what happened with his mother, it's a Dutch angle. I'm like, and it makes the audience feel like sort of off put. I'm like, that's really cool. He knows what he's doing. Like, he knows the rules, and he's really good at the craft.
Mm.
So he could do it, but yeah, I wonder if he loses his insights if he makes like just an action film or I don't even know what else there is, like a.
Yeah, it's interesting. He turned down directing the live action Akira movie that keeps getting thrown around Hollywood. And it's interesting because in this movie there's an Akira slide on the motorbike at the end.
Yeah,
like
totally.
So he's giving a homage to it, but he turned down directing that. And like looking on IMDb, there's nothing upcoming for him in terms of directing or writing. So yeah, it's interesting. I would be interested to see him do other stuff. I really would. Like, I think, like you say, he's got a really good eye for film, and I don't know. I'd be happy to follow him wherever he goes at this point.
I'd see whatever he makes, but because like, does he do comedy? He's made comedy for his whole life, sort of. Like, does he want to go? Do you reckon he wants to go back to that, or?
I feel like no. I think.
Sorry, go.
No, just like I feel like he had a pretty good career in comedy. He was known as the comedy dude, and I feel like we've had 5 years now of being the horror guy. I don't feel like that's enough. I feel like he's just...
This sounds bad, and maybe this is a reason for him to do it. But comedy feels like it's beneath him now, in some ways. But I would have said maybe horror, like if a director came into horror who was really loud, I'd say, maybe horror is a bit beneath him. But he's shown that it can be more than that. Maybe he can do that with comedy. Maybe.
And he does elevated horror, which is like the actual good ones.
But also all of his movies have comedy, so I think he kind of like comedy's in his DNA.
Yeah,
I can't imagine him making like a film that's not funny, because I just don't think I think also he doesn't see the world that way. He sees the comedy in everything. He knows it so well. But I don't know what a film I'd want to see him necessarily do, like, because all these movies mash up. Like this, Nope is like sci-fi and like Monster Hunt. It's a thriller. Like, I don't think I'd want to see him just do an action film, just a generic. I don't want to see him take on the next Thor film or something. I don't want to see. I can't remember him. And this movie's also got Western elements, but I don't want to see him do just like a basic Western. I don't think that works. So he kind of, I don't know. He feels like the guy who wants to mash genre. I think he likes doing that. So I don't know what film he made that has no horror in it at all. Because
I just I don't know. I think he's a creative person. I wouldn't have thought up like Get Out or Us or Nope. Like, and they're all three different things. I'm happy to see where he goes next and what he does different in his next one. Like Griner touched on in the group chat earlier, just shout out to the poster with Stephen Ewan with a
Yeah,
cowboy
so I
hat.
guess for the audience, it's a poster of Stephen Ewan, and it looks like he's wearing a cowboy hat. That's what you think it is before you see the movie. After the movie, you realise it's literally showing you the alien above his head. And
Yep.
the other thing is, like, there was character posters for him and M and OJ, and they don't have the alien above them, and he's the only one that got eaten by the alien. Like, there's even subtext in his posters. I love it. It's a lot of fun.
Good.
Did any of you guys, while watching the film, be like, "Oh, it's like a cowboy hat," at all?
No,
Like
not really.
from looking up, when it first comes down to see him, I was like, "That's weird. It looks like his cowboy hat." Before
I think
I'd
you
seen
get
the
that for a
poster,
brief moment, yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah. Maybe.
I thought it was like shaping itself off stuff. But yeah,
Could be.
rankings.
Yeah, rankings.
I feel like we've got probably the same ranking.
Possibly. So I guess I would put Get Out first, Nope, and then Us.
I'd
Any dissenters?
Get Out, Nope, then Us. But I tell you, Nope was really good.
Yeah.
But Get Out's, yeah.
I think Get Out is still on another level for me personally.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Like I want to wait and let it all settle, and I want to see
Yeah.
what happens once Nope's kind of found its place in the reception, and once I've sat with it longer. But
Yeah.
that's mine as well at the moment. Yeah, Get Out and Nope, Us. But I don't know. Nope was so entertaining, and it just really worked for me.
Yeah.
But I think
same.
I think Get Out is literally like lightning in a bottle. I don't know if Nope could surpass it, but
Yeah.
we'll do this again when he makes another film in 3 years.
I feel like we could review these movies every 3 years and have a different opinion possibly too. Like,
I feel strongly that Us is a distant third. So I don't get it being rated higher than.
I really enjoyed it on this rewatch. It's still shouldn't be rated higher than Nope like it is, but
No,
Yeah.
crazy people.
all right. Well, that was the Peele Trilogy. Thank you for joining us on The Good, the Bad, and the Worst. For our next podcast, we are going to be watching Prey. We've done the Predator quadrilogy. They added another film, so we had to come back in, see what we thought of Prey. Was it good? Did it stand up to its predecessors? Is it better than that terrible fourth film?
Yes.
Join us next.
Spoilers.
Join us next fortnight as we cover Prey. If you enjoyed this podcast, you might enjoy our other podcast, Bonus XP, where we talk about video games. Catch us on social media at Good Bad Worst or at Bonus XP, and we'll catch you next time.
Spoilers.